On behalf of the Converged user group, I would like to welcome you to today's webcast, The Converged and Hyper-Converged Infrastructure, Maximizing the Business Value of Data Protection, presented by Mitchell Watts and accompanied with Jason Kahn and Richard Burrows. Thank you all so much for participating in this webcast and your continued support in Converged. You can learn more about the Converged user group by visiting our website directly after our event today. You will automatically be redirected there once this webcast has ended. Before we begin, I'm just going to reiterate some of those housekeeping items that Stacey has already mentioned. First, today's webcast will be recorded and available for you on demand at theconvergedusergroup.com by the end of this week. Secondly, as Stacey mentioned, we will be having a live Q&A session at the end of this presentation. She will be there to assist with any issues that you may have and to also make sure that you can speak to the presenters with that raised hand feature. Please note that you have the ability to send in any questions throughout the presentation as well with your Q&A feature at the bottom of the page here. On that note, I think we should get started. So I would like to introduce our speaker for the day, Mitchell Watts.
Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you everyone for joining today's call and discussion about maximizing the value of data protection with your converged and hyper-converged infrastructure. As Erica mentioned, I'm Mitchell Watts, Product Marketing Manager for Integrated Data Protection in the Dell EMC Converged Solutions and Platforms Division, CPSD. I'll be joined by two of my CPSD colleagues today. Jason Kahn is Product Manager for CPSD Integrated Data Protection. Here we are. And Richard Burrows as well. He'll be joining us. He's part of the Technology Strategy team in the Office of the CTO for CPSD. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for inviting us to present to you today, and we are so happy to be here, and we look forward to meeting you in person at an upcoming Converged User Group event. I'd like to start off with some background to help set the stage for our discussion of data protection for CI and HCI. The challenge most organizations face is that we are living in two worlds. The first is characterized by traditional applications. It's IT-centric and on-premise. The second challenge can be defined by new next-gen applications. It is developer-centric, and it lives in the cloud. At Dell EMC, we view these two worlds as working together. By leveraging these as one, you get both the trust you need to manage today's business needs and the agility required to transform for the future. However, this becomes even more challenging when you're trying to keep up with explosive data growth and modern data center innovations, plus the very real costs associated with downtime and data loss. According to Dell EMC's 2016 Global Data Protection Index, organizations that were surveyed have lost $914,000 on average and 2.36 terabytes of data on average with each data loss event. And most troubling is that 82% of businesses say that they're unprepared for future business challenges around data protection. So the question is, how do you know if your data protection strategy is on solid ground? Now, in working with our converged and hyper-converged infrastructure customers, we've seen some additional challenges that can keep them from standing on really solid ground when it comes to their data protection strategy. We find that organizations will often move to blocks, racks, or appliances, but they retain a data protection solution that was already in place. Or they purchase the CI and HCI, and then they bolt on the data protection in some form or fashion well after the CI and HCI is in production. Now, clearly, it's not always possible to address the data protection at the same time as the CI. The purchase cycles may be separate, or different teams may be involved in evaluating and purchasing decisions. But we found that having data protection as an afterthought, or what I'll call as a before thought here, to the CI can really bring on some additional challenges, and in some ways may limit the ultimate business value you see from your CI. For example, it's common that backup and data recovery capabilities aren't appropriately architected and sized for the CI. environment. You want to make sure that you have just the right data protection solution for the types and values of workloads you're running or that you plan to run, and that your backup network is being used efficiently, so you're not paying extra to run and support the backups. Another typical challenge we see is with the build-it-yourself approach to data protection. You already know the inherent benefits of CI and HCI. Since you don't have to build it yourself, it's simpler and faster to deploy, it's less risky to run, and that leads to total cost of ownership benefits. All those benefits can also extend to the related data protection, and I'll walk you through, with the help of my colleagues, through some of that soon. Another challenge we see with this unintegrated data protection type of approach is that they can be really difficult for IT organizations to support, especially as organizations are dealing with their growing data center environment or cloud environment. Backup and data recovery can get proportionally more difficult as the size and the scope of the environment grows. So in a nutshell, we urge our customers to consider data protection as an integral part of their overall IT transformation, and therefore is something to consider in the same breath as their CI and HCI. So to address these challenges, we recommend an approach where data protection is a fully integrated or integral, if you like, part of every IT transformation strategy. Now, one dictionary definition of integration works really well in this context, and that's the definition is combining two or more things to make something more effective. Pretty straightforward. But one important question is that you may want to ask is it worth it to me to take the time, cost, and effort to put all these pieces together myself? It's like building a car. You could build it yourself, but then you'd have to worry about finding all the parts and then build and test the thing to make sure it works as it should. Our approach to integration brings the pieces together for you to save you time, cost, and effort. One part of the approach is integrating the data protection technologies onto the CI or HCI during manufacturing when possible. Second is making sure that these technologies are carefully matched to the business value of the data that you're protecting. And this got me thinking about integration and calculus. Now, it's maybe feel like a bit of a stretch, but bear with me. Now, I wasn't good at calculus, I must admit. I took calculus in high school, and I struggled. But if you think about it, solving problems through integration in calculus has practical benefits of its own. Integration is the operation of finding the integral of a function or equation, and it can be used to find areas, distance, velocity, probability, and many other useful things. But it's easiest to start with finding the area under the curve of a function. So, for example, an electrical engineer uses this approach to determine the exact length of power cable needed to connect two substations that are miles apart. Because the cable is hung from poles, it's constantly curving. So this integration allows a precise figure to be determined. And that's just one example of how that approach to integration is applied in science. Now, the analogy I've just made between integrated data protection and integration and calculus is pretty loose. It's nothing more. It's interesting that they're both practical, proven approaches that you can apply to derive practical benefits. And one key aspect of the Dell EMC approach is bringing factory integration to the data protection. In other words, performing the same careful, painstaking interoperability testing for the data protection that we do for all of the other software and firmware in the CI. We build this tested solution during manufacturing, which enables customers to have a turnkey data protection experience. The data protection is engineered, manufactured, managed, supported, and sustained as one with the CI or HCI. And some benefits, which hopefully you would be familiar with from your time with converged systems, they're very similar. So this will accelerate the return on your data protection investment, simplify deployment, and you'll get the one-call support for your infrastructure as well as the data protection. And this approach also simplifies code upgrades of your data protection because you're getting the full interoperability testing that we've already performed for you. And finally, this approach enables you to expand your data protection capabilities and assurance across the data center. Next, I'll walk through what we lovingly call the pyramid slide. This is another key part of the Dell EMC viewpoint around an integrated approach to data protection. If you're interested in CI or HCI, a natural next question is exactly what types of applications and data should I be protecting and how? If network bandwidth and storage capacity were free, 100% of your organization's data and applications would be fully redundant in multiple locations. Economic reality and the laws of physics, however, dictate that you need to make decisions which balance data protection costs against the business value of each application and data. To be truly cost-effective, the best data protection strategies incorporate the combination of deduplicated backup, archive, data replication, business continuity, and workload mobility capabilities. In other words, it's a complete toolkit to deliver the right level of data protection for each business application that you're running and protecting. Dell EMC thinks of it as a data protection continuum that spans protection tiers and that all need to work together in a complementary fashion. So Jason will review the graphic in a few moments, starting at the bottom. And here just briefly are some examples of converged customers of Dell EMC who have incorporated integrated data protection into their CI and HCI strategy and have seen some measurable business value as a result. For example, Old Dutch Foods, City of Virginia Beach, First National Bank in South Africa, and Land Rover Bar. I'll just let you take a moment to take a look at some of the practical benefits they've seen, and hopefully some of you are on the call today. We appreciate your business and are looking forward to talk to you more about how we can continue to improve these solutions and give you additional business value for them. At this point, I will hand it over to Jason Kahn, Product Manager for CPSD Integrated Data Protection, and he'll give you a deeper look at the integrated data protection approaches that we bring to our customers. Jason?
Yeah, thanks, Mitchell. Just want to pass me the ball so I can drive the slides. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. As Mitchell already mentioned, we had the same slide here. It was slide so nice we've added it twice. But like Mitchell said, right? We view this this pyramid as a data protection continuum, right? That spans protection tiers, and they all need to work together, right? So, and just reviewing the graphic, right at the bottom we have our backup and protection storage, right? And that's because as an IT organization, or any organization for that matter, 100% of your application data needs at a minimum daily backup, right? Daily backup being a safe point-in-time copy. Where maximum data loss in the event of a disaster is only 24 hours worth or up to 24 hours worth of data. The recovery time in those situations can be minutes if the backup happens to be on-site, or hours or days. It's off-site, and weeks if an entire data center needs to be recovered. And traditionally, daily backups are saved for roughly 30 to 90 days, just depending on corporate policy, right? But going up a level to continuous data protection, CDP, and again, your organization's percentages may be different, but based on the data that we've compiled over the years in doing this is typically what we've seen, from our customers, right? We typically see 20% of our customers' applications and data that need more than just nightly backup, right? So depending on the deployment options used and the outage event that you're encountering, replication and continuous data protection can minimize data loss, right? It can be 0 with a shorter recovery time that can be minutes to hours. One point to make is that replication should be used in addition to daily backups, not as a replacement for daily backups. The reason for this, replications have limited storage. So oldest, data replication gets overwritten by the newest. Daily backups are only safe for 30 to 90 days. And then lastly, replication of a corrupted file is still a corrupted file. So if it's detected past the time that the last good replication has been overwritten, then the daily backup will have to be used for that recovery. And then moving up to our top tier right there, and again, your percentage may be different, but we've typically seen in the past that 10% of customers' applications and data need an even higher level of data protection than backup and continuous data protection. That 10% can represent up to 60% of the value back to the business. This is where you need 0 data loss and near 0 application recovery time. That's for your mission critical applications that you just cannot have an outage with, right? Also, another thing about continuous availability and data mobility products is that IT, more and more IT has the requirement to be able to move applications or workloads from one system to another or one site to another. And, starting from the bottom up, you see on the right side of the slide there, for backward protection storage, that's where we're positioning integrated Avamar networker data domain for our backup suite. For replication purposes, we're using Recover Point and Recover Point for virtual machines. And of course, for data mobility and continuous availability, our flagship product is vFlex. So just kind of building off, I think Mitchell had a slide earlier that kind of touched on, the turnkey experience. For people on the phone, already customers have bought into, that turnkey experience, the 5 pillars that we offer in terms of engineered, manufactured, managed, support, and sustain, right? Meaning for blocks, racks, or appliances, you are getting that same experience, and that applies to, like Mitchell said earlier, the data protection as well. The one thing I did want to touch on with this slide real quick was the newest member of the Dell EMC Hyper-Converged portfolio, which is Dell XC series. So there's currently a reference architecture that allows you to optimize data protection capabilities of XC series with our backup products, Avamar and data domain, which provide the support for VM and application system backup recovery and native cloud sharing of deduplicated data. So this is kind of the first step towards, a planned engineered solution with full lifecycle support for Dell EMC data protection technology on XC series. And I'm going to step through kind of the factory integrated solutions, beginning with VxRail. So this is kind of our VxRail comprehensive data protection slide. There are both included data protection options with every rail node, as well as enhanced data protection options that we also position for our customers, right? So VxRail appliances ship with built-in backup and recovery and also continuous data protection capabilities for common use cases and support for workloads. So some of the included options include stretch clusters that deliver continuous availability across campus or metro-based distance. There's Recover Point for virtual machines, where you can have replication for any point in time, from seconds to minutes. And each VxRail node comes with 15 RP for VM licenses automatically included. Next is vSphere replication, with some similarities to Recover Point for virtual machines, but doesn't have that granular replication that you can get out of a product like Recover Point for VM. And lastly, each VxRail appliance comes with 8 terabytes of vSphere data protection for local backup and archive. So as hyper-converged infrastructure expands to more use cases, some customers are looking for additional capabilities and more cost-effective scaling to support those workloads. And that's where the enhanced data protection options come in, things like Data Protection Suite for VMware, for applications and instant backups, which is key to many enterprise rail customers and offers additional functionality for comprehensive monitoring, reporting, and backup file search capabilities. It also offers greater scalability with regard to recovery point for VM, up to 1,000 VM per license for recovery point for VMware. And then lastly, there at the bottom, it talks about Data Domain Virtual Edition. Customers can also, take advantage of protection storage capabilities with more efficient bandwidth, faster backups, and greater storage utilization with UDDE, and that can scale with flexible capacity up to 96 terabytes. So jumping into factory integrated backup systems for CI and HCI. So the factory integrated backup system is the most common configuration for blocks and racks, being that, we feel that 100% of a customer's data should be at a minimum backed up. Of course, it is kind of our flagship data protection system. And it's built on either Avamar or Networker and select data domain systems, along with a pair of Cisco top-of-rack switches, and, of course, Dell EMC professional services. So both Avamar Data Domain Networker, they all have excellent reputations as tools for efficient deduplicated backup. The combination of the two, with a little extra Dell EMC magic sprinkled in, make it truly the best solution for a complete consolidated infrastructure. Being that the backup system is directly integrated into the block or rack network, the backup data moves from the block or rack to the backup system on the block or rack network. So what this means is that the backup traffic can be offloaded from the customer network. And for many customers, this actually translates into the ability to, over time, retire their dedicated backup network as applications and data migrate over to the block or rack, and that can save you, money on maintenance and, of course, on network bandwidth. And we'll talk about that a little more here in a bit. The Avamar piece, the Avamar software manages the entire backup process from, policies to backups to recoveries to replication to even system maintenance. So you have one backup application that can be deployed for enterprise-wide backup and recovery. And the backup workloads are assigned to whichever purpose-built backup appliance, i.e. Avamar Data Domain, provides that optimized solution. And of course, with a factory integrated backup system, if you ever have any problems with a block, rack, or data protection, this backup system, including the components Avamar Data Domain, it's all handled with a single point of contact, the Dell EMC support team. So just expanding a little bit on kind of the benefits of factory integration, and I know Mitchell touched on these earlier. It plays off of the 5 pillars that we continue to stress, engineered, manufactured, managed, supported, and sustained, the data protection, and the block or rack infrastructure. But what you're really getting from it, is that integration point, right? So much of the integration with server storage and network with the block or rack is done in factory. So we're avoiding significant on-site data protection, deployment services, and staffing time. Dell EMC is providing the cables and ports to connect into that block or rack, so you don't have to worry about configuring your own network or providing those ports and cables needed to connect a backup system. We talked about offloading the backup traffic. We'll talk about that again on the next slide. The release certification matrix, I think Mitchell touched on that a little bit earlier. Any related networking and block or rack as well as data protection within that release certification matrix really simplifies patching and maintenance, and overall it improves reliability and dramatically reduces necessary staff time to keep your systems up and running. And of course, the one phone call support for both the converged infrastructure and the data protection that'll reduce the time to triage and remediate incidents. So Dell EMC estimates that our customers with factory integrated backup systems are saving up to 50% in network costs over those customers who actually retain their dedicated backup network. Those with a dedicated network will have two of the same network architectures, one for production and the other for backup. Now, if you no longer need that backup network, you can slowly eliminate the entire backup network by moving applications that were backed up on it over to the Blocker rack. So I'm a visual person, as you guys can see from the slide. In a traditional backup environment, you'll have your converged system and your backup system. And as you can see up top there, you'll have an application network and a backup network, right? And the backup data path goes up to your backup network, across and back down into the backup system. And you as a customer have to supply the cables, ports, and network configuration in order to make that happen in most cases, right? Well, in an integrated configuration, Dell EMC is actually providing the cables, ports, and network configuration needed to do that, and it's directly connected into the converged system. Now, what the graphic on the right is also showing is your third-party equipment that's still backing up over your network, your dedicated backup network. Well, as that data moves off of your legacy systems and over to your converged system, it's basically showing over time that you can eventually, if you want, have the option to retire your backup network and run all your backups from your converged system to your dedicated backup system. Now I'm going to hand it over to Rich Burrows from the CPSD Office of the CTO for a look at integrated data protection on enterprise hybrid cloud.
Thanks, Jason. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we've all got a good handle now on how buying an integrated data protection offering can really help a faster time to market, but also increase availability of our own in-house applications in a private cloud. For a while now, we've been talking to you all in the use group around the virtues of the enterprise hybrid cloud and how we can deliver a turnkey solution to take our traditional converged and hyper-converged platforms and how to transform the IT organization and deliver IT as a service through traditional enterprise applications to a self-service catalog. The ultimate goal being that as an internal IT organization, you can create and adopt a cloud operating model to deliver the same type and class of services to your internal customers that they might know and expect from any of the well-known public cloud providers. But the challenge is always how do you do that both in a cost-effective way, but also, as with any other vendor, how do you differentiate yourself with the services that you offer to your business? So by integrating all of the data protection services that Jason described, you can actually deliver the same speed of business, agility, the faster time to market where the line of business are much more agile and can provision and request their own infrastructure systems. You can actually surround it with a wrapper of data protection services that just aren't available today in any public cloud offering. So by taking the best of breed data protection services that Jason mentioned for a typical private cloud architecture, we can start to blur the lines between a public and a private and a hybrid cloud consumption model, but really deliver enhanced value to our internal IT customers, such that not only they can have an option of choosing an on-premises cloud service as opposed to going to a public cloud service, but they would actually choose to because of the additional value-add services they can receive around continuous availability, disaster recovery, and backup services baked right into that cloud operating model that businesses are adopting by deploying enterprise hybrid cloud. Now, the underlying technology is the same. The underlying technology is the same in terms of the product, the technology, and how Jason described they're deployed and architected into the environment. But what you can start to see as an example is it now becomes part of the template, part of the life cycle of that asset as people start to provision new virtual machines from the service catalog. We provide and we offer to them business-level data protection services embedded right in there when they choose to deploy that. What that also means is part of the idea of a cloud operating model is not only do they have immediate access to provision and get access to these services on demand, but we also have to provide a cloud operating model from a cost and chargeback perspective. So again, by embedding all of these data protection services into an enterprise hybrid cloud deployment, we can make it part of the fabric of the machines and the application services that the business provisions within EHC. But we can also give them consistent feedback around the state of the backups, their chargeback summaries, and really how they're leveraging those backup services, again, just to demonstrate back to them that as part of a hybrid cloud built on converged and hyper-converged infrastructures, we can deliver to them the same business services they expect from a public cloud provider, but bringing to bear our own corporate data protection requirements to give them ongoing business application protection. Now, one key message to bring across here is that this isn't a one-product implementation. Everything that we've described around recover point or recover point for VMs, for Avamine data domain, and even multi-site continuous availability with VFlex, all of these data protection components are not available just as an integrated factor engineered option for the infrastructure around converged and hyper-converged systems, but also integrated as part of the fabric of the enterprise hybrid cloud offering, such that for every turnkey infrastructure as a service offering that you're deploying on your infrastructure on-prem, it will automatically or can be made to automatically include all of these data protection offerings that we've been discussing in the session today. So really just to underline, these are, again, not point products in the same way that engineered systems make it much easier to consume and deploy these technology components. Enterprise hybrid cloud makes it much easier to integrate and deploy these data protection components and really help them to expose the value up to those line of business application users who are consuming the resources. So I'm going to pass it back now to Jason to wrap up the session.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So we wanted to take this opportunity in front of our customers and just briefly go over, some of the new challenges and opportunities around converged and hyper-converged infrastructure that our customers have asked us to address now and moving into the future on a data center-wide scope, right? So our customers have asked us, hey, we want scale beyond individual systems, right? Individual converged systems already have enormous scalability, but what if you want a common environment to scale beyond that and still provide you all the benefits of a converged infrastructure, right? They want to be able to also share resources across converged systems. So a way for separate converged systems to leverage common resources, also including traditional converged and hyper-converged systems in the same environment, and being able to manage multiple converged systems in a centralized, consistent manner. So customers who purchase multiple systems from us, they want a simpler way to manage them, thus extending and amplifying the benefits they've received from their initial purchase. Customers want to be able to share resources between converged and non-converged environments, right? So between converged and hyper-converged systems, as well as third-party environments, legacy equipment and new third-party equipment that they may have existing in their data centers. And lastly, they want to enable data replication, workload mobility across those converged systems. So traditionally, a gap in converged infrastructure, the customers want a standard engineered methodology to be able to connect multiple systems and data centers and replicate data and move workloads across all of them. So that said, I'd like to give you a quick advanced look at some of the innovations the Dell EMC team is working on to help our enterprise customers really extend the benefits of factory integrated data protection out to data center scale and beyond. So what this means is that our customers will be able to benefit from that single support of their data protection environment and the easy maintenance that comes from having that pre-tested stack of data protection technologies, but magnifying that simplicity and cost benefit at scale so you can essentially protect more with less. So we're now developing a full data protection software stack that can essentially be pushed out across the data center via a centralized management platform on your block or rack environment. And this will end up bringing simplicity and consistency to the entire data protection environment and reduce, ongoing maintenance effort and management. Second, the world is moving towards a software-defined networking, right? So one of the benefits of software-defined networking is how it can simplify both security and data protection. All of our future innovations within CPSD integrated data protection will be compatible with both VMware NSX and Cisco ACI network virtualization approaches that you may be considering. And lastly, you'll be able to apply all of our innovation both into your current block networking environment as well as your standalone networking environment. So this will help ensure scale while enabling you as a customer to make the most out of your existing network investment. So some of the innovations I just mentioned are also being incorporated into the Dell EMC vScale architecture to drive even more value for our large vScale customers. So the architecture enables the most flexible and optimal way to actually scale out modern data centers and share resources across multiple converged systems, including systems across distributed sites. So vScale provides, a standardized high-performance network fabric and converts islands of converged systems into a highly leveraged pool of resources. It also serves up shared compute, storage, and data protection resources across your environment and allows for third-party legacy systems to actually integrate with a converged system resource environment. So some next steps that we want to propose to you, the first obviously is just to consider the value you're seeing from your current data protection strategy and solution. Mitchell earlier went through, problem definition, a lot of the challenges that our customers are facing. And, we want to make sure that your strategy is, aligned based on RTO and RPO, of course, against the business value of each application that you're running in your environment. Right? That flows right into the second next step, which is evaluate or reevaluate the data protection in your application environment, right? And the last thing, of course, is to contact your CPSD account team to investigate further techniques to actually align your data protection investment to your workload. So matching solutions to business value, right? We're here to listen. We're here to help. So I just, on behalf of the team, I want to thank everyone on the phone for your time today. And I know we have some questions coming up. So thank you.
We do have a question, and I'm going to direct it to Jason. The factory integrated backup that can come with blocks, is any of that solutions info monitored by VCE Vision or controlled by VCE Vision?
Yeah, so to answer that question, not currently. At this time, the only integrated data protection product that's currently monitored using Vision is vPlex. However, we'll be expanding that to the rest of the product suite towards the end of the year. So it's in evaluation currently.
Mitchell, Rich, and Jason, this is David Giesiga. Are there some common questions that you guys hear often? Or a better way to put that, what's the most common question that you hear from customers regarding the data protection conundrum?
Hey, David, it's Richard here. I think invariably the common question that we get asked around data protection is we don't get asked about it. I mean, that's the honest truth. It tends to be an afterthought around these line of business applications, such that everybody's very focused on how many cores, how much memory, how many IOPS does a particular application need. That the data protection is almost either taken for granted or it's not included in the original design. I think one of the key things that we were trying to highlight today is that it shouldn't be an afterthought, especially in large-scale systems. If you're building out something like a VX rack, it can be a critical part of that data center fabric. So this should be a kind of, do you want fries with that conversation? It's very much that it should be part of the data center design from the start, and that's really, I guess, one of our calls to action. In that, in the same way that people would evaluate whether they need a VX block or VX rack relevant to the workloads, the question should always be, what are the levels of protection that I need to provide for that line of business application, and include that as part of the initial data center integrated fabric design, as opposed to it being an afterthought. And that's really what we're trying to allude to here, is that in the same way people have moved from a build to a buy model around integrated systems, then the next logical step is also to include those ancillary services like data protection in that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Jason Kahn. I was wondering if I could kind of ask a few questions of the people in the crowd, if this would be a good time for that.
Well, we got a few more minutes. I think there might be time for one or two questions.
Yeah, so anybody feel free to raise your hand and offer some suggestions. But just some things I'd love to get feedback from people on the phone. You already have bought into the Dell EMC, or formerly known as the VCE experience. You already are customers with Converged and Hyper-Converged. But when implementing all of that into your environment, were you confronted in your data center environment with data protection challenges, whether that was support or operational complexity, just in general, of implementing, Dell EMC equipment into an existing data center environment, for those that didn't have or didn't buy into, data protection initially? Was data protection part of your strategy when you moved to Converge or Hyper-Converge, and did that cause any challenges for you as a customer?
We do have a response from MS. MS, your line is unmuted.
Hi, it's Mike Somerville with the University of San Diego. So data protection is something we have done in our data center forever and will always do, right? So I think to Richard's point of we don't get a lot of questions, for us, it was, okay, so I'm getting this converged infrastructure, and that's going to make a certain number of things easier, allow us to provide services to our customers quicker. So I'm grateful that you guys also thought to integrate data protection in that, because I just want to kind of roll that in. And then additionally, as you might guess, being a data center person, not every single thing we buy is made by Dell EMC. And so I'm honored by the fact that you guys were open-minded enough to realize that that was the case for several customers at least, and allow for the fact that we were able to integrate other third-party products. No disagreement that Avamar, Data Domain, that sort of thing are excellent products, but other ones were able to bolt on very easily, so thanks for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Mike.
So I am going to thank Mitchell, Jason, and Rich for joining us today and taking the time out of, I'm sure, their busy day to speak with us and share all their knowledge. We really do appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who were able to come to the webinar. We would like to invite you to some of our upcoming events. We will be at VMworld both in Vegas and Barcelona. So if you're going to either, please join us. And just as a reminder, you can check out more details about what events we have and what's going on with Converged by checking us out at convergedusergroup.com. And yes, don't worry, you will be taken right there after this call today and we end the WebEx. If you enjoyed this webinar, we hope you stay tuned to see what's coming up in August with our VxRail presentation that'll take place on August 23rd. So again, be sure to check that out for more details on our website, and that is convergedusergroup.com. So from all of us here at Converge, we want to thank you once again, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.